Here we are.
Nice
So I've
big-
changed
nice-
careers. I no longer
nice-
work in cybersecurity. I'm now a commentator.
Yes, that was a nice big inhale to start with. Very nice.
That's just a, and we're live on air.
With the nice, pretty colored microphone. Welcome to the Kingsman and the Cyber Guy podcast. I am Cyber Guy, Darren Mott, Director of Cyber Operations for Five Eyes Limited.
And I'm Mike McQuaid. I am the Director of Counter Threat Intelligence at Five Eyes Limited.
Well, Mike, as always, pleasure to see you. This is our third episode. I think we started with less technical problems than we've had in the past, so that's a nice change of pace for me, but I'm sure I'll mess something up here as we go. I got windows open all over the freaking place here. So so talk a little bit about so the guidepost for this particular podcast / live stream. So if you're on the live stream, you're seeing us doing live. If it's the podcast, we've already done it. But we're going to talk about the need for business domain dark web exposure reports. It's something we've been working on for the last week with some companies and found some interesting results. And then we're going to talk about the UK Cybersecurity and Resiliency Bill and what that means, not just for the UK, but perhaps for the world in general, or at least for data, especially as it pertains to logistics companies. Because as always, on the first and third week of every episode or of this podcast, we're going to talk primarily information focused to the logistics community. But let's be honest, right? A lot of the stuff we're going to talk about can fit in any industry.
Absolutely. You nailed it right on the head there. So let's get straight into it. Darren, kick us off. Where are we going first?
All right. So dark web exposure reports. Why are we talking about this? So I've been actually talking about this for a while, right? Before we even started this company that is designed to help support logistics companies. And I say all that so I can add our pitch slap counter here for those who are keeping track at home, which I have to do at the same time I'm talking. So for those who like the humor, there you go. We're up to pitch slap number 1. But I've been doing this for when I started my own, when I went out on my own, talking to companies about why is this important? Because let's be honest, most companies probably don't even realize how much data they have exposed, especially on the dark web. And that comes in a lot of different shapes and forms, right? From Stealer logs to data breach information to IP to, cyber bad actors wanting to commit fraud against individuals because of data breach stuff. But you've really taken it and expanded on it, right? So talk a little bit about what you've done over the last week as you're looking at these companies, how you're kind of classifying them by color. And then we'll show an example of one that was particularly bad, just to get an idea of what we're looking at so you can see kind of how massive it is. So go ahead.
So in the last week, I have been checking companies' domains specifically. Now, I've put this into 3 categories, and the top category is the reactive category. And I call it reactive is because you've now no longer got a choice. You have to be reactive. And something we've often talked about many episodes and different podcasts, even on LinkedIn, we say be proactive, right? But because it's a cost center, nobody wants to spend money on it until they have to be reactive. So the 3 categories is you run the domain check, and the first level is nothing. There's no hits. There's no leaked information. There's no dark web hits. The company's fine. So they're in the green category.
Now, before you go to the next color, note that there may be information. We just can't see it, or our tool cannot see it, and likely no tool can see it, right? So bad guys get information, and let's say your company was hacked a year ago and they stole your information, but they stored it only on their private servers on the dark web. The dark web tools wouldn't see it if they didn't have access to those particular protected areas, right? So being clean doesn't mean you're completely clean, but it's a good indicator that chances are you are, right? So carry on. Sorry for interruption.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like what we argue all the time. It's like, when people say, why should I get cybersecurity in my company? And it's like, well, you don't want to get hacked. And it's like, but I've never been hacked before. And it's like, this conversation. So the green category is, like I've said, and Darren touched on as well, there is we've run the domain through the search and there's been no hits. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means that the tool hasn't come up with any hits. Now, if we were to go into the dark web and find ourselves into interesting sites and conversations, we might actually come across something which we've discussed in the last couple of days about potentially doing a future podcast episode, is going on the dark web and doing a piece on it.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a future episode where we go on the dark web and show the viewers exactly what happens on the dark web. Now, when you first enter the dark web, it's very much people are talking about what they're going to have for dinner and what they're doing at the weekend. It's like a normal chat room. But if you know specifically where you're going, if you've got a URL and know exactly where you're going, that's where you start finding the juicy stuff. So now you've got the amber category. Now this is the leaked information. This is information such as email addresses, passwords, IPv4 addresses. That information has now been leaked, which again makes it likely that it's also on the dark web. So at this stage, information has in some capacity been hacked or leaked, and the bad guys have now got it and they've now put it onto the dark web potentially, or they've just kept it for themselves on their computers at home. Now, this is the first stage on destroying a company. Once you get to the amber stage, this is really where you want to start getting your practices into play, because the bad guys have now got a 1-0 up against the company. So, because I feel like a football commentator, then I'll use the football analogy that the bad guys are now 1-0 up on you. So again, this is where you want to be proactive. However, again, it's a cost center, so therefore you're not going to wait until you have to do it. Now that's what enters into the red category. And this is what Darren touched on earlier, where companies' information has now, through our tool, been able to identify information that's now getting traded on the dark web. So these are things like stealer logs, which means that the hackers has been able to get into the company's computers and been able to steal information, whether it's documents, whether it's personal information. The list is endless. So I actually did a search on a company just before we came on this podcast, and I was interested, and I found a hit on a company that I've never seen from a previous company before. So all the companies that I've checked, I've not seen this one yet. And the cyber category was Cardin. So you must be aware what Cardin is, don't you?
Yes, of course. It's trading in stolen credit cards, right?
Cardin. Yeah. So speak about Cardin, because I've not seen this one on any other company, and it was until this one. And the company I checked, industry-wise, it didn't quite make sense why Cardin would be on it, but doesn't mean it's not there.
And let's be honest, we're not completely experts in the tool we have. We have a tool that does dark web stuff, but they will kick out some results. We're like, what are we looking at here? So if it's a carding result, and I haven't looked at that, but my guess is it has to do with company related information was found on a carding forum. Doesn't necessarily mean like it was credit cards. It just means the forum is largely a carding forum. But at this point, the online criminal forums have branched out to not just carding, but personal identifiable information, protected health information, whatever data they can sell and trade, because it all has a value, right? If you have social security numbers, don't have that much value anymore simply because so many of them have been lost. But there's still value in it because bad guys can get information from breach A that had, information A, B, and C. Breach B had D, E, and F. So they can fill in that profile of the target by different breach things. And that increases every time there's a data breach. This is my argument in some of the expert witness stuff I do, is that every time there's a breach, it increases the risk to the particular victims, because you can say, well, their information was taken in all these other 5 things. Maybe, but there's so many criminal groups that, let's say group A, and I'm going off into the weeds here, I apologize, but group A does whatever they do, they'll call them bad group A. They only have information from this one data breach. So they're committing their fraud based on that. They only have that information. So all the people whose information is stolen is now at risk. Group B may have it from this one and another one. Okay, does that mean that, well, then because of that, the potential victim's risk is less? No, that's not the case. It's like saying, well, your house got robbed yesterday, so your risk of getting robbed tomorrow is probably less.
Oh, I love the analogies that cybersecurity personnel and companies use. I mean, there's so many analogies you can use, right? And again, this is, touching on what you said there, is I don't actually know the statistic of this is, but I'd be interested to find this out. How many sort of separate different data points does a hacking group need to really cause damage? Because if they get, let's for example, the amber category, they've got the leaked information, so they've got the employee's email address, they've got their passwords. In some of these instances that I've seen from these searches, I've saw people's home addresses show up, and including other personal information about families, which is very scary and dangerous to know that somebody that you don't know, basically doesn't exist, has all this information on you, and they can do whatever they want with it. So
Right.
therefore, it's like, if they get a successful hit, they need more data points. So once they've got one thing on you, that's the part of your profile. Now we need to get the other part of the profile. And when they've got the full profile, that's when they're going to strike, because they're going to be the most successful when they've got the full profile.
Yeah, and before I answer that question, I want to do one little test here, because when I talk about the live stream in the podcast, I'm always afraid the live stream doesn't work right. So I'm going to go to I have YouTube and LinkedIn looked up here, and I see that our video is going, which is great. I just want to check and make sure the audio works. So we're going to get some feedback here if the audio is actually working. Yep.
You got PTSD from episode 1.
Yeah, stop talking. You got to stop talking for this to work. Yeah, that works. That was you talking on that one. So YouTube's working. So if you're watching on YouTube, it's working. If you're watching on LinkedIn, well, that's not good. LinkedIn, I hear no volume. Oh, maybe my volume's off. There you go. Yes, LinkedIn's work. So both working. Yay. So for the
Yay.
It says we have 4 whole people. It might be just me and my 3 windows. Who knows, whatever. But it went. So again, if you are watching and you have questions, feel free to hit us up, right? We're flying by the seat of our ass here as we do this. So again, salty language may be incoming. But to answer your question, right? Fraud guy, if you're a cyber criminal and you commit fraud, you don't need a lot of information to do there's different types of fraud. There's all sorts of fraud. There's financial fraud, there's identity theft, there's phishing, there's reputational damage, there's extortion, right? Bad guys get information from health information and say, hey, you have cancer or you have AIDS, I'm going to extort you because you don't want that information out. There's a lot of ways bad guys can use information. They don't need name, address, social security number. What's the equivalent social security number in the UK? You guys must have something similar, like your government identification number.
Yeah, so we have in the UK, it's called National Insurance Number.
Okay, there you go. So your national insurance number. But if you have all that, that's great. But you don't need it all to do certain kinds of fraud. So it depends on what kind of fraud you're trying to commit. It's hard to quantify because there's so many types. And let's be honest, AI and all this other stuff just makes a lot of this fraud easier. So anyway, carry on. So we're in the red. So should we show what red looks like? At this point, we've talked around it. So
just very quickly, I just want to make one point, right? Because again, there could be listeners that have no idea what we're talking about, and it's like, what I like to try and do is make comparisons to what the dark web world's like and what the real world's like. So when you're talking about all these different groups, they've got their niche, right? This is what they specialize in, and in comparison, it's like the same in the business world. You have one company, like go for cybersecurity company, right? You've got one cybersecurity company that specializes in cyber penetration testing, and then you've got one company that specializes in SOC services. So what these guys are doing on the dark web is like, hey, I don't specialize in identity fraud, but I know a hacker group in Moscow who does. We'll send it to them and they can do it. And then it's like a referral system. So then the cyber group in Moscow will say, hey, you guys, you specialize in financial fraud. We've got some hits. Do you want these? We'll sell them to you. So the dark web works just like the normal world, where it's like a referral system in business.
Well, I'd add to this that in addition to that, so like even a ransomware group that now ransomware is not just ransomware; it's double extortion. They go in, they steal data from the company, and then extort them that they're going to release the data. And the victim can pay the ransom, or they cannot pay the ransom, or they can do whatever. They can do a host of things. But what's going to happen ultimately is that bad actor group is going to monetize that data somehow, and chances are more than likely you're going to sell it to others, or sell parts of it to others, or do a variety of different. They're going to do what bad guys do. So yeah, so it's not going to hold.
These guys don't do it for non-profit reasons,
right,
do they?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And I did a case once where the company said, "Well, we paid the ransom," and they said they deleted all of our data. Yeah. Okay. So you didn't. So you're now trusting the bad guys. You had firewalls set up to prevent the bad guys from coming into your system, but now they've got in your system, stole your stuff. You paid them millions of dollars, and they promised, because they showed you a video, that they're going to delete all that data. So yeah, if that's the case, I got a bridge to sell you in Russia.
Do you know what I find with these scammers, and it's not even just hackers, like just scammers in general, right? It's their it's their sort of attitude, right? So I'll give you an example. Right? This afternoon, I received a scam phone call, right? So they were claiming to call from my phone provider. So they knew who my phone provider, which again, you use OSINT, you'll be able to find out who my phone provider is. And the guy wasn't able to give me my email address. He was asking for my email address, what my home address was, etc., etc. So I just played with him. I knew exactly what was going on. I just played along with it, and I just started winding him up. And he had the audacity to turn around and say, "I don't like you wasting my time." And if you notice that with scamming calls,
Yes.
they always
Yeah.
say, "I don't like you wasting my time," and it's like, you're trying to scam me, and you're complaining that I'm wasting your time. Like,
That is
get a grip of yourself.
Oh yeah. Well, I try to get them to tell me to F off or something. That's my goal, is how can I make them mad? So it's always fun. But I honestly have my phone set to, if I don't recognize your number, if you're not on my contact list, it goes to voicemail. So I've had 5 today, but I don't answer them or see them. But anyhow, so we're running low here. We're running through a lot of different areas. So why is this important? How bad can it be? Let's show you how bad it can be. Now, what I'm about to show is a company that doesn't know we did this. But again, there's not ethically, we're not doing nothing wrong. We are trying to find open source intelligence to help companies protect themselves, right? So don't think that we said, hey, let's go, whatever. So, and this is your run. You did this run, and this is kind of the graph that you did. How long? So before I show this picture, how long did it take you? Yeah. How long did it, for what is showing, I'm going to show, how long did that take you from this searching with a tool? 10 minutes? 5 minutes?
So for all that information to come up, it probably took. Well, that's an interesting part. I had to restart my laptop because there was so much information, it crashed it. So the whole process of doing the search, restart my laptop, come back and on, it was probably about 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, that was all there.
Right, and it probably could have been 2 minutes if you had a good computer and a good internet connection. But you're in the boonies in the UK, and you guys don't have fiber yet, so I understand your limitations. But here's what it looks like. There it is. So each one of those lines is something. Well, let me rephrase it. So if you're looking at, if you're if you're listening to this on a podcast, this means nothing to you. Go to the YouTube channel, look at, and you can see this. It's fascinating to look at just from a educational perspective, and not just the logistics companies that are served by Five Eyes need to know this information. Oh, pitch slap number 2. We're at 2 now. 0. I screwed that up. Yeah, but every company needs to understand that this could be them, right? So this particular company, the information here to the left, to the right, that's OSINT information, right? That's stuff you can find on anywhere. The stuff on the left, all that block of, it's almost a dark black at this point, are all dark web hits. And if you were to look through this, there's 2,560 Stealer log bits of information. So what a Stealer log does essentially is it's malware that is placed on a system that has the ability, and it's usually on there because someone clicked a link, downloaded the document, did whatever, all the stuff we talk about, and it saves browser saved credentials. So if you save your credentials in the browser, the Stealer log can get that. If you have session cookies, like you go to a site and you use your Google to log in, that creates a cookie on your system that allows you access. The Stealer log can take that cookie. The bad guy can then use the cookie to get access to your account. And it also identifies the computer it's from and all that stuff. So all this information goes back a couple years and up to 2020. No, there was some 2025 stuff in there. So some recent stuff. So this company it appears to have anyway, Stealer logs on their system that they're probably unaware of. And we can actually tell them, hey, here is where the computer that this bad stuff is on. If you would, like to know where your malware is, then we can show you. And we can show you and all you gotta do is contact fiveeyeslimited.com and we'll do that for you. Okay. So anyway,
I love OSINT. I absolutely love OSINT. It's such an undervalued product or service that you can use. Like, it's such a great tool.
Yep. So we're looking at this, and we're going to reach out to this company and say, hey, not for nothing, but you have this problem. And this is a huge company in the UK, right? It's a big company, would you say?
Yeah, it's a massive company. I would say at least 1 in 2 people in the UK would know this company.
Oh, there you go, 50%. All right, so
Yep.
that's the important, and this is why. I mean, if now again, you don't have to contact us to do this. You can do it yourself. Find someone else. My suggestion: find someone who can do this for you and get an idea, right? But of the companies that you have, what is your success rate for finding bad information through these dark web domain searches, roughly?
So on Monday, Tuesday, I checked 17 companies and 7 had the same situation problem that company you've just shown has.
Okay,
So you're looking at, was it
50%.
40%?
Yeah, somewhere, whatever. It's a pretty big percentage, right? It's not nothing. So
Yeah. I mean,
so let's go.
yeah.
So let us
No,
pivot
it's
now.
interesting.
Oh no, so you finish and we'll pivot. I'm sorry. I'm rushing ahead. I'm trying to, again, good time, not a long time.
No, we're here for a long time, not a good time. Well, actually, we're here for both. We're here for a long time and a good time.
Sure, fair
But no,
enough.
I mean, it's interesting, right? Because the other day there, I put a LinkedIn post, and it was kind of sarcastic one about people putting personal documents on LinkedIn to complain about like their insurance company or something, and it's just saturated with personal information. And people don't think, oh, even if you're going to complain about the insurance company, at least black out your personal information. And they don't do it. And it's like we talked about earlier, it's that right now that's a data point. I now know this person's full name, address, date of birth, policy numbers, etc., etc. And we had an interesting conversation on Monday with a contact out who's worked in the Middle East. And
Yes.
you know the one I'm talking about, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that in the Middle East, they have a very low tolerance to risk. If there's any, even at the amber stage where there's leaked information, they're going to be reacting to that straight away. They just have a zero tolerance for risk. And I thought I'm gonna experiment on that. I'm gonna see if that's true. So I checked out 17 companies in the UK and the US, and I checked out 17 companies in Dubai and Saudi Arabia. And 7 of the UK and the US had hits, bad hits. They're in the red zone, just like you showed just earlier in that diagram.
Yep.
Now this is from a 5-man band to enterprise level in the UK and the US. Did the same thing for Dubai and Saudi, so 5-man band up to enterprise. How many do you think I got? How many hits do you think I got for Dubai and Saudi Arabia?
3.
0.
Okay. Interesting.
And I checked the statistics for it. I believe the UK is the second on the list of most cyber attacked countries in the world. The UK is number 2. China's number 1 and the UK is number 2. I think the US was like something like 7th, which really shocked me. I thought they would be higher up on that list. But it's like, because we're going to come up, this is going to relate because we're going to bring up the cybersecurity and resilience bill. So this is going to tie in very nicely. And I was thinking to myself, is it a cultural problem that there's a poor security hygiene in the UK, and we'll chuck in the US for that matter as well, that the bad guys just look at as easy targets? It's like if businesses aren't going to invest to keep themselves secure, then it's like from the bad guys' perspective, I could try hit a company in Dubai, but they're so all over it. What's the point? Like it's going to take me much longer, or I could just hit a UK law firm, and it takes me a couple of days opposed to a couple of months, and I get the same money. Because the argument is like Dubai and Saudi has loads of money, so you'd think that'd be the target. But then the UK and the US has lots of money. So the difference really isn't the money, it's not the reward, it's the how easy is it for hackers to get into these companies and extort them for money.
Sure. And the other thing, is the hard part is companies in the West just don't, you said it earlier, cyber's a cost center. The Dubai companies realize it's a cost center, but it's a much less cost center than if they had a problem, which is why you can't get in their stuff. I mean, the guy we talked to said the one company he worked with, it took him 4 years to get a deal, but when they got through it, it was $45 million a year deal. So they're clearly
hmm
investing the money in the security, and it's proving. But you mentioned the cybersecurity resiliency. Let's get into that. Let's talk a little bit of what that is, why it's important specifically for logistics companies, why they need to care. If they're not aware of it, you need to pay attention to it. And again, even though we're focused on logistics companies as best we can, this kind of hits a lot of different entities. So you in the UK, you've researched this pretty deeply. So give a primer on what this is, and maybe we can talk about what does it mean for the rest of the world, ultimately, if anything.
Yeah, so that last point I just touched on is there a poor security culture in the UK? And on the surface, I would argue, yes, there is. And the UK is not only the guilty party, but the UK is not in a good state. So on the cybersecurity resilience bill, we've got 5 different industries that have to now comply. So you've got supply chain, you've got MSPs, you've got data centers. What was the other ones? MSPs,
Critical national
supply chain,
infrastructure.
yeah, energy and critical infrastructure. Now, the reason those 5 are on that list is because they are the top targets. If you hit one of them successfully, that's like the backbone of Britain. So some people might be thinking like a data center, like really, is that bad? But I've worked in the data center space, and there's government entities that pay millions to have their data secured safely. If that was to be cyber attacked and that information was to be accessed, that is a massive failing for the UK. It's a massive data breach. Is worth a lot of money to the bad guys. So the UK government's identified these are the main targets, and because these industries are looking at as a cost center, don't really need to get it. Like, may think about it in a couple of months' time, maybe a couple of years' time. No, like as of and when this bill gets passed, which is estimated to be October this year, they will legally be complied to have certain what's the word I'm looking for?
Requirements.
Requirements, a good word, certain requirements to have at their company or at their enterprise. Otherwise, there's some serious repercussions, which we can get onto in a moment.
Get onto them.
Got it? Okay. So, what's going to happen is if you're successfully cyber attacked, you're going through a ransomware attack, whatever it may be, you've got 24 hours to report it to the National Cybersecurity Centre, which is a branch of GCHQ. So those guys are they're the main body who are responsible for any cyber crimes that happen in the UK. You got 24 hours to report it, and then you've got 72 hours to submit a report on what's happened. For each 24 hours after the 72 hours that you don't do this, it's £100,000 fine a day or 10% turnover as a fine. So, and effectively, if you have no policies at your company, no cybersecurity policies, you've not got your ISO 27001s, you haven't got a SOC, you haven't got incident response, you haven't got anything in play, you can guarantee you're not going to have that all squared away in 72 hours. That is impossible for that to happen because you've got to investigate it as one. Then you've got to get the reports ready, and it has to be done by a professional. It can't just be done by the chief financial officer at a logistics company. So, and then you've got to then compete against the ransomware attack if there is one. So that could be several millions of pounds. Then you're going to get hit by fines from the government. So this is a needed policy. It's a well needed law in the UK. This should have happened a decade ago at least, but it's coming in now, which is great. So if your company is in one of those 5 industries, your thought process to is this a cost center now is this is the top of the pile. And it'd be interesting to know how many companies in these 5 industries know about this bill.
So let's say I'm a US company, but I have a data center in the UK. Am I required to follow this bill?
Yep, 100%. So any company presence in the UK. So that's a good point. If you're an international company, if you're based somewhere else, but so for example, we'll use Amazon. So they're based in Ireland, the Republic of Ireland. So it's not part of the UK, but they operate worldwide. So because they have warehouses in the UK, they would have to comply with the Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill because they come under supply chain.
Hmm. There you go.
So
So,
yes,
that's the question. That's going to be like, that's the thought process I had, is how does this impact the world in the U.S.? And that's exactly right there. If you're doing business in the U.K. and you fall into one of these buckets, you're going to have to do these things. Now, again, I mean, Amazon's probably doing it anyway, so I don't think they're going to have a hard time getting to that point. But smaller companies are. This is going to be very similar to, this could be, you know, a gold standard baseline like GDPR that forces private or global reforms elsewhere. I mean, I don't find it hard to believe that the EU will look at this and say, ooh, that's maybe something we should do. That seems to make sense. Let's go there. Now, will the U.S. ever do it? Who knows? I mean, it's going to require our Congress to come up with something to do that, and that's thinking that our politicians can do the CyBUrs, and I can tell you right now, most of them cannot do the CyBUrs, so they ain't going to talk about the CyBUrs, so the CyBUrs ain't going to get done. So there's that problem. But, you know.
is
So,
that not
so
because the US has got a more complicated legal system? Because effectively every state is run like its own country. The fortunate part for the UK is whatever UK law comes in, it affects the whole UK. I know we've got 4 different countries in the UK and they have their own internal laws, but whatever the UK government says, that's what happens, and it's just able to roll out quite seamlessly. Whereas the US quite isn't quite like that, is it?
Well, Mike, let me give you a U.S. civics lesson because since you asked. So if the federal government passes a law, it is then all the states have to follow the law, right? So it's we call it the supremacy clause of the Constitution, meaning if there's not a law at the federal level, a state can impart their own laws. But let's say, let's say, you know, you federal taxes, right? You have to pay federal taxes on your income, right? A state can't say, well, because we charge a state tax, our people don't have to pay the federal tax. No, it doesn't work. It works the other way. So the federal laws supersede state laws where they're similar, right? But right now, there really aren't any cybersecurity laws like this is that requires companies to do A, B, and C. But a state could say, hey, we're going to do this. Like California's done some things specifically towards businesses, makes the business say, I'm going somewhere else. So businesses have just left the state to somewhere that's more business friendly. But from a cybersecurity perspective, there's a lot of different laws in different states as it goes to reporting of cybercrime. So your requirement to report something bad happens. Some companies, some states don't have it at all. Some do. It's different. But then there's national level laws. Like there's a child protective law called COPA that everybody has to follow. So there are some. I'm not saying there's none. I mean, there's also the big law. When I was with the FBI, the big statute that we fell under from a cybersecurity perspective was the Cybercrime Fraud and Abuse Act. It was Title 18, Section 1030 was the statute, right? And everybody had to follow that. So if you were in Texas and committed you hacked into a company in California, there was a federal law that would allow us to arrest you and charge you. So that law covers all the country. So there's your civics lesson for the day. So but it's harder. It's harder for us to do it than you guys to just kind of by doctrine say this is what you're going to do. Everybody's going to do it, and you're going to be happy about it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think this is a good start that these 5 industries are on this. I would like to hope that more will follow suit, more will be added to this. I think there's arguably more industries that you could add on to this. And just off the top of my head, I'm thinking law firms, accounting firms, insurance companies, because they move money, they move a vast amount of money any given day, and they've got access to so much customer and client details and data. They really should be added onto this list. However, it's still a good start for 2025 that these 5 are on it. So if you're listening and you're part of a different industry, like say you're a part of a law firm and you're thinking, phew, that's not me, I wouldn't get too comfortable because I can see more being added to this as the years go on.
Yep. I mean, it's got to start.
Now,
I mean, someone's starting somewhere, right? Like you said.
do you think they should have this in the US? And if so, what top 5 industries would you put on it?
Telecommunications, healthcare, definitely healthcare, because healthcare's got a ton of problems over here. So telecommunications, and under that it would fit all the data centers and all kind of what all that's done. Logistics probably would be requirement because again, moving stuff. So the Defense Department kind of does that a little bit. So if you're in the defense community, like there's 400,000 private defense contractors in the U.S. And there's a new requirement called the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification that they all ultimately have to fall under. So there's a little bit of that in individual industries that's driven by federal oversight. So that a little bit of that is happening. But again, it's politicians trying to do the cybers. It ain't going to happen. Not going to be effective.
So did your government not bring in, for example, like retired FBI agents that worked in the cyber division to help them create policies, new laws, like be an advisory role? Do they try and do it all themselves internally?
Well, keep in mind, we have 535 elected representatives plus the president. So taking the president out of the people that make the laws, the legislators are in the House of Representatives and Congress, right? You have two as well, House of Lords and whatever you call the other one.
House of Commons.
House of Commons, there you go. So like the House of Representatives are individuals from districts in the states. Senators there's two from every state. And there's a reason they did it. I don't need to get into the reason why. But they all have advisors and things like that. So most of their policy folks are younger people. Certainly I know some former FBI friends who work for particular Congress people. What exactly they do, who knows? But, again, I'm not aware of any people that did cyber when I did cyber in the FBI that went to work for the government, went to work for a politician. That's for damn sure. Because they can't pay much. I mean, if you get out of the FBI, you're going to go work for the private sector who can pay you a lot more money, to be quite frank. I mean, unless you're really dedicated to the service, then you find a few of those people, but
that's what I would say. You have people that will be dead keen. It's like they're not sort of money motivated. It's more they're just so dedicated to it, so keen to it. They just want to make a real difference in history. But those people are very rare because you're right. When you come at the government, you're looking for the highest contract you can get your hands on.
Well, the other problem I'd add is when you go to work for the congressman, dealing with the whole congressional structure is going to burn you out so fast. You're like, screw this. I'm going elsewhere. These people are idiots. I think all politicians are stupid. Now, they're not all stupid, but I think they all are because they can't do the simple things. But there's some that try, but I get it. It's a system, and that's just me being negative. So, I know it's a shocker.
So the cybersecurity resilience bill that's happening in the UK, you don't think it'd be possible to be rolled out into the US then?
No, not in the current way we are. So it is what it is.
Interesting.
So there's a good look at our two topics for the day: domain dark web exposure and the UK resiliency bill. Next week we'll have a guest talking something in the cybers. We don't know what. If you work in the cybers and you would like to come on and pitch what it is you do, talk about your business, talk about the thing you do that makes you special, like we did with Paige Hansen last week. And if you have not seen that, go back and watch that one. We talked about compliance. Then hit either Mike or myself up. Those are our email addresses. That's our website if you want to go see what we do from our website perspective. Even though logistics is our focus, again, if you are not a logistics company and still need help and think, hey, maybe these guys can help, we're certainly happy to talk to you. But that's kind of the focus is logistics. Doesn't mean we don't have services that can't help everybody. We can. Why we do that's a whole different situation. You can talk to me. So, but if you have questions about the podcast, email either one of us. If you have thoughts for topics in the future, do that. I do have one shout out I want to give to Dr. Chase Cunningham. He recently did a podcast with Allison King and Catherine Wang. It's very fascinating what they talk about. It's stuff that I've been talking about. I was like cheering them on because they were saying stuff about conferences and what we need to do, even what the U.S. needs to do to exactly what we're talking about here, Mike. So that's a good follow up to that. And so I highly recommend that one. If you like this at all, hit us up. If you're watching on YouTube, just like and subscribe. Doesn't mean you have to watch every one, but that would be fantastic that we know someone's at least listening besides us and our mothers. And then same thing on LinkedIn. Follow us on LinkedIn. Share this if you can. Hopefully you find it somewhat amusing. So Mike, I was filibustering there. So you go ahead and talk about what you want to talk about as we close out.
Yeah, it's just important to also know as well, because we've talked very heavily about the UK. We've very heavy on the UK when we've been discussing. We do also help US companies, so we're an international company with the UK and in the US. With that being said, hint, hint, if you're a company in Florida and you're thinking, I could really do with these guys, please reach out because Mike needs to go to Florida. 2 weeks. That's all I'm asking, just 2 weeks.
And I should make the note that, like, our services, we call it a 360 degree security thing, because it's not just cybersecurity, it's also physical security. And a lot of people miss that. And maybe that's in 2 weeks. That's the topic in 2 weeks is physical security, why we do physical security, why it's important, and some examples from that, especially like, I know a guy, he was able to get a bomb into an airport. It was fascinating.
Yes, I will share 2 stories in 2 weeks' time about my physical security career. I will make sure to tell those 2 stories.
All right. Well, Mike, thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your week, although I'm sure we'll be talking probably in 20 minutes. So,
I swear I talk to you more than my wife. I swear I do.
Well, I guarantee you, I am not better looking.
I'm going to leave that with no comment. I'm just going to leave that no comment. I'm going to, was it plead the fifth? Plead the fifth.
Yes, that's probably a good call. All right. Thanks again for listening. Know that knowledge is protection. If you can understand the threats targeting you, you can assess your risk, proceed wisely. Thanks for watching or listening. And like I said, email us, reach out to us. We'll respond to every email because we get singles every day, more or less. Have a good rest of your week.
Have a good one.